What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Jets Fishing Adventures. And you know what today is? Today is the start of December, and that can only mean one thing. My top 5 baits for the month of December video starts now.
All right.
Well, it is officially the very last month of the year, and with that, the fishing can get kind of tough. Here around the Tennessee, the southeast region, we're experiencing water temps anywhere between low 60s to mid to low 50s. It all depends on the nighttime temperatures. Right now, it's cold. It's about 36-ish right now. I don't know, you probably can see my breath, but it can get real cold at night, and those nighttime temperatures really fluctuates that water temp. The outside temperatures during the day can get anywhere up to about 50, but as long as those nighttime temperatures stay below that 30, that low 30s, that water temp will continue to go down. The fishing you're targeting two different things, really. You're looking for those bait balls that are either going to be, they can be up shallow, but look for those channel swings. Those channel swings with shallow water and deep water beside each other. There will be a bunch of fish congregated right there. And then also the crawfish pattern. Crawfish, they're really eating crawfish this time of year. So we're going to go through these baits, and if you have already guessed, you can probably guess what some of these baits I'm going to talk about are going to be. But without further ado, let's get into number one. All right, my number one kind of goes without saying. It's wintertime on the Tennessee River. If you're not seeing someone throwing one of these, you're probably not out fishing. It is a bait that has worked so well that it was actually banned by the Bass Association, and without going on, that bait is an Alabama rig. This is the best way to mimic a school of bait fish. If you don't know what an Alabama rig, it is it can either go from a 3-wire, 5-wire, that's your two most common ones. I've seen some that go all the way like a 10, but in the state of Tennessee, we're only allowed to have 3. So before you go and start fishing one of these, check your local regulations. Depending on what state you live in, you can have 5 hooks on one, or you can only have 3. State of Tennessee, you can only have 3. But you might be asking, Ethan, I see this has 5 wires, and it does, but if you look very closely, 2 of these are dummies. And the reason why you want to use dummies is, one, it gives it a bigger profile, but also you want to use smaller swim baits on these, because most time the fish will not go after the smallest one. They want the biggest bait, because in the wintertime they're very lethargic, and they don't want to go very far to chase down. That water temp's really cold, so they want to get the most bang for their buck, and they go for the biggest one. So if you look, I actually have 3 different swim baits on this rig. I got 2 2.8 contacts on here, and then I can't remember the name of these. It's actually a Japanese company, but they're about a 3-inch swim bait. And then the old tried and true Thresher 4.2 from Torn Outdoors. That's my main bait. 9 times out of 10, they will get this last one. So you kind of want to change this last one, this one behind everything, to a little bit different color. It gets them to really focus in on that, and you can get a lot more bites doing that. But I'm not 100% sure what Alabama rig this is. I bought it at the Lebanon Fishing Show. It was an older guy. Really good Alabama rig. You can go online and find Alabama rigs galore. Definitely this time of year. They might be sold out because everybody's fishing one, but that's a great way to fish this time of year. Look for channel swings anywhere there's a bunch of bait. You can throw one of those. I like using a 7'6" heavy, but the rod has a little bit of tip, so you can load it up and get a really good cast. I use 20-pound fluorocarbon Seaguar. That way, if you get hung, if you do get hung up, you've got a lot of poundage that you can pull. Some of these things, you probably got $50 in one bait, so you don't really want to lose it. I know a lot of people like using braid. I have used braid. I just don't like the vibration through the guides, and it doesn't feel smooth. So that's my Alabama rig, and that's number 1. All right, number 2. We're going right along those lines of a reaction style, going after shad, but we're also kind of mixing it up with another version of what I'm fixing to talk about. And there's really no better way to cover a bunch of water this time of year and get down a little bit deeper than a deep diving crankbait. This is the Tactical DD75 by River to Sea. This is an awesome deep diving, dives around 15 to 18 foot of water. This bait was actually designed for winter fishing, and Tactical Bassin does a technique that they call speed cranking. They throw it out, they reel, stop. Real stop. And a bass, if he sees something come by him real quick, he has to eat it. And you give those little pauses, so when you pause, if there is something behind him, he has to open his mouth and bam, you caught him. If you watched my Dale Hollow video from last year, I was using this, caught all my fish on this bait right here, this exact bait. This is a great crankbait, but this is a shad kind of color. They have a bunch of colors. If you notice your fish are on a more of a crawdad presentation, they have this little crawdad version as well. They have a bunch of cool colors. This is one of my favorite deep diving crankbaits. You don't have to speed crank it. At Dale Hollow last year, I wasn't speed cranking it, and I was catching them. So this is my number 2. I love the Tactical DD75. All right, number 2, we're going right along those lines of going after shad, those schools. And this bait, you kind of have to keep it in your hands a little longer. You're kind of going after some bigger bites, and it's a real fun way to catch some big fish, but it can be intimidating, because you can go all day without catching a single fish, or you can go and you can catch in your PB. But that is a big swim bait. This is a Thresher 6.5. This has a great action, one of my favorite bigger style swim baits. Some people will say this is a medium-sized swim bait, but for me, it's a pretty good size one. I love throwing these around docks, around laydowns. This time of year, the dock bite is not that great because it's a lot of shade, but the laydown bite, if you can see little sticks hanging out of the water, that the wood will catch that sunlight and warm up quicker, so the fish will get right up next to it. So having a weedless profile that you can throw up beside it and really just slow roll it. My favorite way to fish this time of year is you lob it out, throw it out, and you literally let it sink, and then just reel really slow. If you think you're going too slow, go even slower. Just a very slow retrieve back, maybe pop it every now and then, but remember, these fish are lethargic, they're not wanting to move, and having a big bait, it gives them more bang for the buck. They will come out and eat a bigger bait versus a smaller bait. Now, that's not saying you won't catch any small fish on here. You can catch 12-inch fish all day long, but this is targeting that bigger bite. So if you're fishing a tournament, if you can catch your limit, switch over to something bigger like this and catch that big kicker. Or if you're wanting to go out and just see if you can catch a giant, throw one of these big swim baits on, and don't set it down. That's the biggest thing. You got to keep one of these in your hand if you're going to fish one, if you want to be successful with it, and just go and have some fun, and maybe you can catch your new PB. All right, moving on to bait number 4. I've talked about reaction style baits the last 3. Now this is where I start to slow down. During this time of the year, the water temp's very cold. It's getting colder. Those fish don't like to move, and sometimes, I know it sucks, but you got to slow down, and there's really no better way to slow down than a jig. You know me, my Bad Boy Jigs, I absolutely love them. That is the regular Bad Boy Jig profile with the head, and he also makes some football jigs. So this time of year, if you want to throw out a football jig or a heavier Bad Boy jig, throw it out, and I literally count the rocks. You're just barely pulling back. If you think you're fishing fast, slow down. Just barely tick those rocks and just drag it back to the boat. I'm looking for channel swings anywhere there's a drop off, points, 45-degree banks a lot of times as well. I get this question a lot, is what is my favorite jig trailer? And it has always been the the Timber Crawl by Touring Outdoors, and I'll show you why. This is the pack right here. When you get one out of the pack, just like this, you can adjust the action of this bait. You can pull this little tab, and that frees the legs. But look at there, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different segments that you can adjust the action of this thing. So you can peel it off just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. This time of month, you don't want a trailer that kicks a lot. So you want to kind of have a subtle one. So you don't want to pull that all the way off. Pull 1, maybe 2, and just kind of keep that subtle action. You know, the fish are cold. The crawfish are cold, and the shad. So they're not making these real erratic action. You're barely crawling. So when you're pulling that jig back, just ticking those rocks, counting the rocks, that's how a crawfish looks this time of year. All right, last but definitely not least, this is a technique that has won a bunch of money. It is not my favorite technique to fish, I will go ahead and say, but when the time is tough and you're trying to get just one bite, just a 12-inch fish, there's really no better way to downsize and to get bites than a Ned rig. I have some friends that will only throw a Ned rig and they've caught a bunch of fish and they've won some money, but to me, it is one of the most boring things ever. You're throwing it out and you're literally just sitting there letting it, you're just sitting there shaking it a little bit. This is the Touring Outdoors Striker 4.0. This is my favorite Ned rig bait. If you look, that tail right there is so sensitive, you can't keep it from shaking. This will also, if you look, it's kind of got serrated edges there. This will hold air, so when it's sitting there on the bottom, there'll be a little bit of bubbles come up as well. But you can literally set or throw it out and let it sit there. If there's any current, this is just sitting there wiggling. I'll put some dye on the end of this and some chartreuse dye. Smallmouth hate chartreuse. This is a great way to catch a bunch of smallmouth. But just to me, my personal, I hate fishing a Ned rig because it's just slow. I'd much rather fish a shaky head. You can throw that out and shake it back, kind of fish it a little bit quicker. This Ned rig style baits is very slow. Where you want to fish this is the same as a jig. It's just the reason why I switch it out. If they're not hitting a jig, you can't get a bite on a jig, you can pick up a smaller profile like this and you can usually start catching them. So this is a great way if you don't have your limit in a tournament. You can downsize to something like this and try to get bites. And most of the time, if you can get bites this time of year, a lot of times there's good fish. So don't be scared, because downsizing this small, it doesn't mean that you're going to catch only small fish. There have been some giants that's been caught on this. All right, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Before I end it, I do have 2 chances for you to be included in a Jets Fishing Adventures YouTube video. Number 1 is next Tackle Tuesday. I am doing a question and answer segment. If you have a question to ask me about any of the tackle techniques, what I rig, blah, what I like to throw certain times, any kind of tackle question, comment below and I will include your name and I'll give a shout out to you and I'll answer that question. But then number 2 option, you can actually meet me in person at Percy Priest Lake January 3rd for my 4th annual New Year's tournament. It's a kayak only tournament, so if you're in a boat, I'm sorry, but we're going to be out there. You can follow my Facebook and Instagram for more details on that. It's actually, y'all are hearing it first, the official dates. I've not posted it on Facebook yet, so y'all are hearing it first if you're watching December 1st and the 2nd. So you're getting a little bit of a inside information. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,500 subscribers. And I just want to say thank you. Thanksgiving was last week. Thank you at the bottom of my heart for following, subscribing, commenting. It truly means the world to me. But anyway, thanks for watching, and we will see y'all next video.